Hey everybody, I'm Ryan Doyle. This is the Very Read Table, and I'm pumped because we are sitting down to D20 questions with the man, the myth, the super behind Odin Key, Odin's Key Game, gaming. Zarek, the godfather of Indominant. I am pumped. I am pumped for this game. I am pumped for this conversation. This is a long time coming, actually. We tried to make this happen earlier, and it didn't work out. So shout out to Peter for getting us to sit down together. Peter from
Yeah,
Tales Arcane. Good, great people. Any friend of Peter's is a friend of mine. And yeah, Zarek, how you feeling, man? How you doing today?
doing good, doing good. Very excited to get to know you and chat a bit. So very, very exciting stuff. I've had a long day, a long few days behind me. So it's nice to just have a nice conversation. So
Yeah, we like to keep it pretty chill, pretty casual here. I am very interested in the. You're a very busy man who just put out. You're putting out a game. You had a very successful backer kit run.
yeah.
Still going strong. Link down below to find Indominant. I
Our
am.
Go ahead. Sorry. I was
No,
just going
shoot.
to
What?
interject real quick. Our pre-order store on Backer Kit will be live in the next like day or so. So
Oh, nice,
people will
nice.
be able to, if they missed the campaign, they'll be able to go back now in the pre-order store. So
Yeah, I do. I see you guys being very systematic, regimented about like the approach to things. It's not just like I have a cool idea for a game, give me money, and we'll see. Like you are very transparent. There's a process in place. And yeah, I mean, tell the folks at home because you're going to do a better job pitching it than I am. Just I want all the customizable. I want to just build characters all day.
yeah.
So tell us about Indominant.
Yeah, so Indominant is a superhero tabletop RPG. You can see behind me some superheroes. Uh, and it's it was built with maybe what seems like a weird hybrid of kind of design philosophy. So I love creating characters and character customization, and I'm a bit of an optimizer. I'm not like the I only care about numbers type. I'm big on like optimizers care about like the story and the concept still, and
Hmm.
they create like the most optimal character for that concept, you know. And so with that in mind, I try to make the game very fun and enjoyable for that kind of a player, but also having a much looser, like I'm not big on minutia and little details. And so we don't have rules for little tiny things. And we've so far called the game crunchy, but I'm learning that gives people a bad expectation of the game.
Hmm.
They assume Pathfinder 2E, and it's not that that's bad, but it's just different. It's a very different experience. We're much lighter on the rules, partially because superheroes, right? Like, we don't need to describe or explain why somebody can, um, like, create fire out of nothing, right? We don't need rules for that. Um, and so most of our rules are for combat, and then outside of combat, it's very like narrative heavy. Um, and I feel like that's somewhat of a weird combo, maybe. Like I love story and role playing and narrative stuff, but in combat, I like it to be like crunchy and tactical. And then I also like to, like I said, be very customizable with character creation. So
I would say I fall into that camp. I enjoy a tactical combat. I like it being rules based
mhm.
when life and death are on the line. But yeah, I do prefer a little more of a lighter touch on the other sides of the game so the story can breathe. It's
Mhm.
funny, we have terms we all agree on, right? Rules light versus crunch, but it
Mhm.
is all very subjective at the same time. There is no set point, right? Like we can all agree Pathfinder 2e is crunchy, and I would say like very crunchy. But there's
Mhm.
no where's the zero point from one person to the next is very different. Especially, I mean, I still feel like half of us are still coming from like they know 5e and have
Right.
maybe heard that other games exist versus like you're deep in the indie weeds where it's like yeah, I only play one pagers. So the
Right.
gamut is huge. So
Yeah.
what is your I mean, have you come up with a better term than crunchy, or have you like defined crunchy in these conversations to help people out? Asking for a friend. Just curious about that side.
I haven't yet. I'm working on that, trying to think of a better way to describe the game that doesn't give a, that sort of like vibe because it isn't quite there. There's a lot of loose like storytelling with your character, especially being superheroes. Like you can have two characters that use fire powers, for example, but the way they use fire powers or how they have their powers is very different. You can have somebody who maybe uses magic, like they have a lot of DC and Marvel, they have characters with magic. And then you could have another character that uses fire because they have like a literal flamethrower that's technological. And um, so in that way, it's very loose and customizable from the story side of your character. Um, and then mechanically, we just have a lot of options, and it's not like super number, like it's not Math Finder.
Hmm.
Not that I'm saying Pathfinder is actually that, but that just kind of like that identity or what have you that Pathfinder has, where it's just like lots of big numbers and math. It's not super math heavy, so like crunch to me doesn't mean math, right? I feel like that's when I think of crunch, I don't think of you're doing a lot of number crunching. I think that's kind of where the term came from,
Mm.
right? Um, and so that's why I think crunch, calling the game crunchy, doesn't quite fit because it's not super math heavy, but it's very tactical, and you need to work together with your teammates and like make good decisions in combat, right? Um, I'm not big on like having right and wrong character creation and customization choices.
Mm.
So game balance is like a big thing. Um, I jokingly call myself like I'm like the biggest proponent for game balance, maybe to like some faults in a sense, but I think it's because balance is misunderstood. Peter has a video on that that he explained.
Oh man, I love talking to Peter because I don't always agree with him, but he's very convincing. He presents very well reasoned cases for things.
Yeah, and he explains them very
And
well.
yeah, and I like a person who who knows what their preferences are and presents them so strongly that they almost seem objective.
Yeah, yeah.
Peter's great
Um,
people. But yeah, there is this like we it's not that nerds need more words, but I think we do actually, because there's
yeah.
like optimizer, like
Mhm.
optionizer. Is that something? Help me out in the comments below if that's, can we make that a thing? Because like there's
Yeah.
so many rule sets where like, okay, if you give me 30 options and 20 of them are traps and there's one best answer, then like actually I don't have any choices really.
Right.
So I'm a huge advocate of game balance
Yes, that's
because
exactly why I am. That's like my big thing is I don't it just came up in our Discord today. Um like if a power is too good for a certain way of building characters, it's like not a choice. You just have to take that power and you have to use it all the time. And so then it's kind of boring. It's like, oh, I made this kind of character, so I have to take that because that's my option. Like that's the best option. Why would I not? You know? Um,
right, and it's not the
so
kind of yeah, if there's meta, right? Like that's not the
right,
kind
right.
of I'm not looking for that in a tabletop game. You know,
Yeah.
it's especially on the face of it a cooperative endeavor. Like
Right. People
you
do
roll up.
care about power though. Like there's a weird thing where it's like, humans, we want to be the best at things, right? So generally most players don't want to make, unless they do it on purpose, a bad character per se. And so I think that for me, that's why game balance is important is I don't want there to be like a trap option. I don't want there to be a wrong way to build your character. And obviously nothing's going to be perfectly balanced, but just striving for balance is so that people have the freedom to make decisions and they pick the things they like that make them feel like their character concept has been like fleshed out to a certain degree or that they just find is like fun and cool. Like I think that's a really big aspect of character customization in tabletop RPGs, right?
Yeah, let's dig down a little bit into the process. I think it'll be like illuminating of character creation in Indominant. You pick essentially like a role, right? Like tactically. Give me the breakdown. Give me the
Yeah.
terminology.
Yeah. So you start by picking an archetype.
Hmm.
That there are five archetypes. We've got the Arbiter, Blaster, Bruiser, Guardian, and Hunter. And then you pick your powers after that. But each of those archetypes has sort of a role that they play on the team. And Arbiter is sort of like your supportive ranged character. Doesn't mean that's the only thing they can do. And maybe I'll get into that once I talk about power sets a little bit more. But Blaster, I think that one's kind of obvious. They blast, they do lots of damage. They're ranged and they're very vulnerable if they're like caught alone. Bruiser, they're kind of like, I always describe them as Hulk or the Juggernaut. Like those are good
Hmm.
examples of what a bruiser would be. It's like a big, beefy, strong character, and they can have any power set, like I said, right? And then you've got Guardian, who's sort of like a Captain America, leader of the team, very defensive, and they help protect and support their allies. And then the Hunter is sort of like a, I guess, to stick with the shtick of relating it to a superhero, like Black Widow, Hawkeye, kind of character, like mobile, kind of middle ranged or melee hybrid. That's what a hunter is. And then we have currently 10 power sets. So there's fire, ice, earth, electricity, gadgetry, martial arts, light energy, weapon mastery, super strength, and psionics. Um, and any archetype can select any one of those 10. Generally, we'll have an optional rule in the main book, but you only pick one power set. And then
Hmm.
from there, as you customize your character further, like when you level up, you'll pick talents that are specific to the combination of your archetype and power set. So an arbiter with fire powers has different talents than an arbiter with ice powers. And then also a bruiser with fire powers has a different set of talents available to them compared to an arbiter with fire powers. And those talents will kind of like niche you down more a little bit. They don't just give you bigger numbers generally. They make you better at, an arbiter is supposed to be the support character. So if you're using fire powers, they'll turn the fire into more supportive things. Um, and so that's like the core parts of the game. You also select a species type. We've got like humans or humanoids, aliens. Sorry, let me take a sip of water.
Sure, sure. I do, man. I just like I'm getting excited because I love the idea of like sitting down next to someone and being curious about what they're bringing to the table versus like, okay, I have a very good idea. Like, oh, you're a druid. I bet you're a moon druid. I bet you're gonna wild shape into this one particular thing most of the time. Maybe cast the spell. Like the idea of like, oh, like just I don't know. I like the variety and the discovery that a system like that kind of lends itself to.
Yeah, and the way talents work, to expand upon that, because it does what you're talking about, is every tier of talent, you only ever get to select one from each tier, and there's three choices. There's no prerequisites, so it's not like you
Hmm.
have to follow a set path. You get to mix and match any of those three talents, and there's 10 tiers overall, 20 levels. So,
So you're
um,
talking about just I don't know a wild a wild amount of options at the end of the day as far as
right.
multiply that out.
Yeah, if you do the math on the combinations, it's in the billions, literally. But it's the caveat there is like that's not 100% unique options. So even without that, there's there's
Um,
1,500 talents alone. There's 480 powers. So you've got like almost 2,000 literal options to select, and that's just in the base game.
yeah, well, I'm gonna poke at a word that you said that stuck out to me in that explanation, and that word was currently,
Yeah,
which seems to imply that perhaps there's more on the way. I mean, I know there's a lot on your plate already, but
yeah,
yeah, we're so the quick start guy is out there. You can get your hands on it this second.
yes,
Um, by the time this goes live on the air, you can do some pre-ordering on BackerKit I forget your acronym, but
The
the
Supers
players
Information Codex. That's our player's handbook, the
information codex.
SIC. Yeah.
SIC. So the players side of the game is coming, and then you have a game master side, and then a dossier on supervillains, the
Yeah.
monster
Yeah.
manual version of it all coming.
Yeah. So our backer kit, this first one, just so that we can make sure that we would be able to deliver, is just the Supers Information Codex. That'll be delivering the physical copies around June, July next year. We're doing a playtest phase. Well, technically three playtest phases. So on June 2nd, we're releasing the first playtest packet, which has levels 6 through 10, because the quick start guide that you mentioned, it's quick start guide is a little misleading. It's We call it the game system primer. It's 196 pages and it's
Hmm.
free, the PDF.
Hmm.
Um, for us, it's like a know before you buy. Like you don't have to guess and hope that you're gonna like the game. You get to try it out for free and get it like a really good chunk of the game for free, and then you can buy our books because those kinds of things are expensive. So we just want to respect customers' dollar. And yeah, so that's what our first backer kit was for. And then our next backer kit, around when we start delivering the books next year, we will launch another backer kit campaign, and that will have all three core rule books. And that will be to fund the development of the remaining two books, which are the Comic Editor's Compendium. That's the
Hmm.
game master. We call him the comic editor. I'm big on like flavorful terms like
Yeah.
that. And then the threat index. So monsters in Indominant are called threats. And we don't just call them villains because some of them are monsters. So, yeah.
And it's such a, I feel like so many games, whatever, in a faux medieval fantasy setting, very quickly get to comic book level action already, and there is some sort of chafing against genre that
Mhm.
happens. So
Right.
like the the super just premise, like, okay, cool, this is the story we are in, and these characters fit it exquisitely.
Right.
Boom, go nuts, have fun.
Right. It is
Yeah.
unapologetically superheroes. And the setting is sci fi. You can kind of tell by the picture behind me. Um, but it's like in the future, there's intergalactic space travel, and stuff like that. So it gives, we went that route. That way you can go to any planet because the universe is infinite. There's an infinite number of planets. And so therefore, we don't need a multiverse because I'm not very big on multiverses, but that's a rabbit hole we probably don't want to talk
No,
about.
I'll dive down there. That's kind of how I fell off of comics, is that, I came up in like, I went the deepest in like the early to mid 90s, and then they reset like both timelines. It's like, oh wait, so none of that mattered? Okay, cool.
Right.
Yeah. The one universe is enough. Is plenty for me.
Yeah, yeah. And things can matter, right? It's not just like you can always like snap your fingers. Oh, this is a different universe, and none of that affects any of this. And it can be fun. Don't get me wrong, but I think for storytelling, I think it's better that things happen and they matter.
Because then there are
So
consequences to choices. And you can show the
right,
players like, hey, because you did this, maybe it's a different character, but like things are different now because you did
right,
this thing. And
yeah,
that's
absolutely,
always deeply gratifying or potentially regretful, depending
right,
depending on what those choices were.
right. Creates a new challenge to overcome or a new problem to solve. Yeah, absolutely. Instead of just different universe, nothing matters.
Yeah, that drives me a little batty. All right, so this theoretically is a game show. I'm going to ask you to roll a d20. I got some cards in front of me for game mastery questions. We can bend them to game designing questions too, I'm sure.
Okay.
So yeah, roll a d20 and let me know
Okay,
what you
I
get.
don't have physical dice, so I'm rolling digital. Either way, I guess you have to
It's
trust me. I got a 12.
acceptable. Yeah, there's no good and bad. So fudging, um, I mean,
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
you can tell me anything, I guess. How deadly do you like your game?
Ooh. So is this more like the way we design the game or just like how to scale fighting, like combat?
I mean, I,
Like,
I will accept both answers. I conceived of the question as like big picture, like how likely is a character to drop irredeemably or like in a very challenging way to bring back.
Yeah, so in Indominant, it's not super common, but it's not something that's unheard of to have a character die. Getting downed is somewhat common. The way we handle it's not like you go to zero and then you have death saves and you get healed and it's like nothing happened. When you get downed, you get injured,
Mm.
and that injury is sort of a death spiral. You'll build up injury levels, and so it's somewhat deadly. And I like a game that's challenging. So personally, when I like run combats and run games, I tend to lean a little bit towards the higher difficulty side, where characters are more likely to get downed and therefore more likely to die. Um, yeah,
Yeah. You're speaking my language. Again, like stakes and consequence
right.
and drama. Otherwise, it's like, well, it's pretty clear who's going to win this, but I guess we're going to have to do math about it for the next 20 to 25 minutes. It's like,
Right,
no, I want
right.
to be on the edge of my seat. Let's go.
Yeah, that's like a whole. There's so many topics that we could like just go off on massive tangents on, right? Um,
Well, that's
like
kind of the
that's one
point.
of the
So,
things I see being important is stakes, like you said, right? Like, and the players need to understand it's okay to run away. Like,
mm,
failure doesn't have to mean you just fight to the death. Like, if you need to escape to live another day, especially as a superhero, right? I always like to tie it into the setting, but um, you're no good dead as a superhero. So if you're losing and you need to run to survive so you can maybe save more people in the future, then you got to do it. Don't just fight to the death kind of thing. Um, but yeah, I think it's important that there's a challenge to overcome. I think that's a big part of superheroes. I'm very much of like the superheroes are good. You know, I know good is subjective, but they're good people. They're looking to improve the world and the universe, and so part of that is doing the right thing or the good thing, even when it's really hard. That's what makes them superheroes, right? And so for me, challenge is very important. I'm not very big on like you're, the expectation you're going to win and it's going to be easy. Like that way you're guaranteed to win. I'm not very big on that philosophy personally. So, and you could play Indominant that way. You could set up encounters so that they're easy. But like our standard encounter is not meant to be like easy. So,
and I do like a game like on the face of it, on the premise, like you're the good guy.
mhm.
It is clear how you play this game narratively as well as mechanically. Like the expectations have been set. You're the hero of this story.
Right. Yeah,
Like, I don't know.
absolutely.
Yeah, you could go join the supervillain, I guess, but that's not what it says on the box. That's
Yeah, yeah. We have an origin. So I guess I didn't finish going through character creation stuff, which we can go back to after your questions are done. But um, origin is another thing, or sorry, this would be your calling. So you can have the calling of, and that's, we used to call it background because D&D, like that's what we were used to at the time. And we changed it to calling. That way it's like, now that you have your powers, what are you like internally called to do? Are you called to be a hero? Maybe like we call the business people suits. So like they use their powers to make money. A researcher, maybe they do like these crazy expeditions to research something and they need their powers to do it. That's what makes them like a special researcher, vigilante like Batman, maybe a contractor, so a mercenary or like a hero for hire, or a villain. A villain is another one. We also have drifter, which is kind of just like I mean, I guess that one's kind of clear, but like, just go with the flow of life. There's no place they call home. They're just kind of like on a mission to travel and experience life. So that would be a drifter. And then yeah, we do have villain, but it's not meant to be like the main experience, right? Because that's the only villain. Everybody else uses their powers generally for good. So
Love it. Yeah, a good villain, man, is the heart of a story sometimes. Like
oh
that's
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Cool. Give me another D20, please and
Yeah.
thank you. And I should warn you, doubles triggers the lightning round, which
Okay, I
is
was curious
not
what
as
happened.
intimidating. Not as intimidating as it seems, but
I got a 7.
seven. Maybe we know the answer to this already, but other sources of inspiration you are drawing from for your TTRPGs, be it Indominant or your home game, all of the above.
So for Indominant specifically, big ones for me are superhero stories, but City of Heroes for a lot of like game design kind of philosophy, and I guess part, how the game is designed. And then even like My Hero Academia, a little bit more grounded superhero stories, actually. I'm big on it. It ties into what we just talked about with challenge, but for me, more grounded superheroes that are vulnerable and can die. They're not just like bulletproof and, can lift up anything that you throw at them. Um, so those are pretty big inspirations for me. And then, I'm trying to think. I guess it makes sense, like for my home games and a lot of things I've designed in Indominant, and like the setting is sci-fi stuff. So Stargate SG-1 was a big one for me. I'm not a Trekkie. I haven't watched it. I actually want to watch Star Trek. Um, but
There's a lot of
many,
it, I hear.
yes, there is a lot. Firefly is another very big one for me. Farscape. I mean, there's a bunch of fun sci-fi shows. So sci-fi is very big for me. And in some ways, I guess like there's that a little bit of cosmic horror comes in with sci-fi a lot too. It's
Hmm.
just got a sci-fi spin on it. It's not like the Call of Cthulhu style. But yeah, that's like the types of things I like to touch on in games. Or um, when I'm playing fantasy, it's hard to have it be sci-fi, but I tend to like inject like some special technology that's usually like steampunky or something that kind of fits that vibe,
What's the
relative to the setting. But
Arthur C. Clarke? Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, right? Like the lines get
right,
blurry if you go far enough.
right. But it's funny you say that. In our like canon lore, some of the best technology is combined with actual magic. Like
Hmm.
that's how intergalactic travel works in our setting, is magic portals, literally. Like so,
Oh, how'd you
because
guys crack faster than light? Magic, duh.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's easy to hand wave that way. It's like, yeah, it's magic. You have enough energy and the right kind of magic, and there you go. You can jump between galaxies. And then it's not actual FTL because we don't know if faster than light travel is possible, right? So that's another reason we kind of went that route. Is it lets us hand wave it away and not have to explain things.
Man, I really like that answer. One for like the uh this is hard sci-fi. Our portals are made out of magic. We're not breaking the laws of physics here. But
Right.
also just the result, like thinking those things through, right? Because like you start combining these things, and like the kitchen sink is very appealing because it's like creates a permission structure for a lot of players to bring their fantasies into this world.
Mm-hmm.
But often it can, let's in some examples, let's say one thing's happening over here and one thing's happening over here, and it doesn't, like, there's room for everybody, but they don't quite intermingle the same way, and it doesn't quite feel fully baked or fully mixed. So to
Mm-hmm.
like be thinking those things through, how those things are interacting, how a party of like, this is a magic guy and this is an alien, what does that mean for the rest of how this narrative or world is working here?
Right.
So yeah, to hear you having considered those things and provided satisfying answers to them, yeah, is cool. Give me some, forget the cards. Give me some cool like world building details of the implicit or explicit setting here.
Yeah, so it's in the future. I already explained that there's intergalactic travel. One of the main uh, aspects is that when aliens arrived on Earth, there was like an expedition from another galaxy, and they just arrived here and met humans, and they created the Galactic Legion United and the Intergalactic Defense Council. And so the Intergalactic Defense Council, or IDC, we try to have a little bit of fun with some of our acronyms like that. Like, I don't care, right? Uh, but the IDC, they're like the government for the universe. And every like society has a council member that sits on that group, and so it's like a a joint government where everybody has to like participate and gets their voices heard. And then the Galactic Legion United is like a private entity that manages supers, not just heroes but supers. And
Mm.
so like they'll register them and provide them with funds and redirect them to big events that happen where it's like, oh, this planet's under attack by these aliens, like these crazy monster aliens, like we need supers there. So the Galactic Legion United will send them there, and they'll work with the IDC to facilitate that. And it's very pro good. Like these organizations canonically are not like these corrupt things. They're there for the betterment of everybody. That's like the very positive sort of vibes in our canon. Just because for me, that's superheroes is like we were talking about earlier. It's superheroes are good. They are forces of good, and so we just promote that in the setting in the lore as well. Obviously, you could corrupt maybe like a small part of that for a story, and we've actually done stories ourselves with that. Where like maybe on a planet, an IDC like home base on that planet is corrupted. There's some like evil person who's running it and making bad things happen, but it's not like the whole organization is like this evil machine, you know. So
I think it's like a fairly recent phenomenon long term, but I think people are afraid of having like the untarnished good because
mm-hmm.
then there's no complexity. And I just disagree with that strongly. It just seems like, no, that's just a way to extend out the spectrum so that there's more room for contrast. Like
Yeah,
this can be actually a good, public-private partnership, whatever, trying to save the day.
yeah, and there
And
can
just
be
because,
nuance still.
right, right. And potentially even more so, I think, to
Right.
like have that in contrast with everything else. Because like I don't know if we're it's cynicism or just media literacy or what, but we're just
Mm-hmm.
like so prone to like, oh well, clearly that's the supervillain all along, right? Is
Right.
the League of Nation type corporation that's trying to save the planet? No, that's got to be something's wrong
Right.
with them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we have that's what the role of the Blood Syndicate is, like a criminal organization. They like try to undermine and corrupt these organizations. So they're like a ever-present kind of threat, um, if you will. They're fun. They do like the kind of underhanded tactics, or they'll infiltrate and corrupt from within, like secretively. And so we can have like a lot of fun mysteries with them involved where you're like trying to figure out who's the bad guy, or like who's the mole essentially, or how
Mhm.
the Blood Syndicate is always in the right place at the right time, or they never get caught, like things like that. We try to have like organizations for lots of those types of stories. um, like the Bolters, it's a gang of like super powered criminals. Um, the head of them has electricity powers, and most of them originally had electricity powers, but they're like a bad biker gang, like an evil biker gang kind of thing. So like they're sort of your like everyday criminals in a sense. We have goons, which are more generic. They're just like bad guys that you can throw in with any group. And then we even have like horrific monsters with the Thrall. They're a fungal, similar somewhat to the Flood from Halo, but
Mm.
um, I mean different. They're fungal based though, so they're very similar to the Flood in that sense. And so that's like your maybe your like existential threat. They're like on the edge of the galaxy or the universe, like trying to just consume everything. So they're very fun for that, like just ravenous monster that you need to save the city from.
Yeah, just you're not negotiating with the
Right.
mushroom that is trying to eat the planet here. It's like, nope,
Yeah.
kill this thing or
Yeah.
run away from it, but not a lot of
Right.
middle ground there.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Fun. Give me another D20. Let's
Yeah.
spin the wheel. See what we get.
11. Close. Close to a
11.
lightning round.
Um, what do you think is a common, or perhaps the most common, player or game master mistake, user error?
Ooh. It might sound a bit spicy, but for players, it's not reading the rules.
Well, yes.
uh, um, Granted, to give people some grace, some books aren't like written the best or easiest way to like
Mm,
navigate and read the rules, um, at least in my perspective. But yeah, I think too, it's like hard to feel like, okay, I have to read this like 200-page book in order to play the game. So I think some of the onus for clarifying that falls on the designers and the publishers. And so it's like, hey, here are the rules. Like, here are the actual game rules. It's not the whole 200-page book. So at least it's a more bite-sized thing to have. You know, it's like, okay, read these 30 pages, and that's the rules. And um, yeah, but yeah, that would be my biggest mistake, I think, for players. For game masters, hmm, I would maybe say too railroady of a story, like
mm,
uh and in the sense of creating an entire plot. um I think it just makes your own life harder as a game master. It's not that it's wrong, it just you're committing yourself to a ton of prep ahead of time. And then also there's that issue where it's like, oh, the players aren't doing what the story like needs them to do, and then you maybe like force them a certain direction. um but for me, it's mostly just like it makes your life a little bit easier to not like try to pre-plan everything, and you'll be less unhappy if things don't go the right way because you haven't planned what the right way is. So
I'm a huge fan of that. The more games I run, the less I predict, even not even like plan, but like attempt to plan, have a plan to make
right,
a plan. Because it's so much more fun to like discover it along the way. Like
right, yeah, right,
that's the
that's an
game side of it.
aspect. Right, that's the aspect too that's important, is then you're experiencing something special with your players. Like, you know, you get to be surprised when they're surprised because it's not something that you've been like waiting to happen for 5 sessions. It's kind
Yeah.
of like take things in a new direction and make it up as you go a little bit.
And to dogpile on the players for a second too. The game master has, even if they are not preparing a railroad, like they're putting some amount of time and effort,
Right,
hit, flirting with probably a lot of time and effort between sessions. You can put some prep into it, and it's always going to be less than the game master. And like just showing up and knowing your stuff, not the
mm,
all of the everybody else's stuff, but just like knowing how your particular set of things works
right,
is going to make the game flow much more smoothly. You're going to get through much more content. You're going to be way more immersed in the game, and that's something that is directly in your control that the game master only can tangentially influence at the time it's happening. Like,
right.
yeah, players do a little preparation too. Why not?
That's a really good one. I like that.
What was yours? I just beat a
Well,
dead
you said
horse
it
because
better.
I
You
believe in
expanded
it.
on it. Yeah, you expanded on it and said it better than me.
Well, thank
That was
you.
a nicer way and more informative to say than read the rules.
Well, you're currently writing those rules, so it does feel disrespectful if you're gonna sit down to like so you're starting to play test stuff. Are people like I don't know? Are you having to answer two things where it's like okay, well, yeah, if you just turn to page two here, you'll see that we addressed exactly that.
Yeah, sometimes it happens. Sometimes some of it's like the formatting of the primer. Like someone pointed out something good where a phrase that the answers the exact question they asked is like at the top of a page right before a big header. And it's like just 2 sentences. And so they kind of just skipped it or didn't see it, you know? Um,
Mm.
so that's I did the layout for the primer myself, and I'm not a professional by any means. My business partner and co-designer Ricky praises me a lot, and I appreciate it. But it's definitely there's a lot of improvement that can be made, and so we're having a professional do our SIC for our backer kit, and
Nice.
I've just learned a ton too from creating a book and having people read it. Things like that where it's like don't have an important rule or a rule, maybe just like a couple sentences at the top of a page before a big header, because it's easier to get missed that way.
So yeah, I mean, I did the layout for the book we're going to talk about later, which I learned a lot. I'm currently working on another one. I'm
Oh,
working with
nice.
Twin Steel on something, and
Oh,
it's very collaborative. I've never like tinkered so much with someone else, and it's like, no, you can't do that because now there's just like it broke the box, and now there's like one there's one
yes.
extra
Oh my
word
god.
here. We need 12 characters to come off somewhere.
Right. That's a thing that's hard when you're doing the layout. You have to do some editing of text because
Yeah, 1,000%. A
yeah,
thousand percent.
your
And
manuscript's not going to fit perfectly into the book layout. You're going to have to modify things on the fly. That is definitely something I've learned. It's like for exactly what we're talking about. That pushed that one sentence or like a couple words off that box and it's now disappeared, or it's like gone outside of your margin, or it's now been pushed to the next page. And so now you have like a couple words in the next page. Like, yeah.
and it's like so much of it is stuff that you kind of intuitively, or not even intuitively, like subconsciously, you're processing this information this way. You look at the page and like your eye automatically does a bunch of stuff, and until you stop and think and like essentially you're taught about it, research it, learn it somehow, you're like, oh yeah, of course, like I've done that 1,000 times, but I didn't realize that's
Right.
why I'm doing it. Like, oh yeah, these little words to my lizard brain are clearly less important than these big words. These are bold. Like I'm gonna skip that. That can't be important. I need this big
Right.
word now.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's very interesting. And then to put it in front of others and realize like, oh, okay, our brains are built differently. There's different
Mm-hmm.
kinds of us out there relating to information, bringing our own context and content to it.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of have to correct for that. Especially, I find like I know what I'm trying to say. It's perfect.
Yes.
It's crystal clear to me what we're
Right.
talking about here.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say is like, you know what you're thinking and intending, and other people don't though. They're not in your brain. So, but it's hard to like think about that as you're doing things.
Mm,
Like when you make the layout, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense, but maybe to somebody else it doesn't, or the way you wrote something to you it's really clear, but for whatever reason, whether it's something else that they just read and they're missing other information, they don't read it the same way that like you wrote it, even though it's the same words, of course. It's Yeah, it's one of the things that is not underappreciated, but like undervalued for like how difficult it is
mm,
to like manage. um,
absolutely. Because you could have cool ideas and then conveying them to other humans
right.
is a challenge.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, give me one more
Yeah.
D20. Let's see what we're rocking here.
Oh, 12. I mean, lightning
12. Did we
round.
do the 12? Lightning round. Sweet. So yeah,
Okay.
it's all again, it's all very casual and loose here. You do not have to contain yourself to yes or no. There is no big ticking clock. But
You have 5 seconds.
uh, do you fudge dice rolls?
Oh, never anymore.
Never. And never
Yeah,
anymore.
I
Okay.
there was a time where I did, but I decided never again. And it's not the part of the same answer, but I also roll all of my rolls as a GM in public for everybody to see.
I love that. I only just recently started using a DM screen again because I'm doing a lot of like we're in a very social thing and I'm doing like reaction rolls and morale checks and just like a little bit more stuff that I
Yeah,
want behind the screen. And I have just like I'm in a point where I have more information. So it's like, nope, I
right.
need to be able to have this in front of me right now. But
Yeah.
for
I
years, every roll was on the table.
yeah. it doesn't have to. I'm not like, oh, if you roll behind your screen, I'm going to be upset. I just personally, for me, even if it's a secret roll, I'll roll it in public, and that way they
Hmm.
see, but they have no idea why I'm rolling. It's just like
Oh,
panic sets in,
interesting.
It's like, huh, let me roll a die, and they see, like a 12, and like, what does that mean? And I won't tell them, but
Interesting. Yeah, maybe nothing. Maybe I thought you were getting a little too comfortable over there.
yeah, I do try
Uh,
to be very transparent though. Generally, like there are certain things that are better kept secret though, you know, for sure. So, like I said, it's not like I don't think everybody needs to follow that philosophy. It's just how I do it.
I'm a huge advocate for it because I think a lot of people haven't ever tried it or like are
Mhm.
afraid to try it, and it is so freeing. And like I'm developing for that, I developed a long time ago with this like nearly like mysticism around the dice. I was like the dice know things I don't, and will take care of
Um,
some of the aspects for me. Like I'm comfortable having a co-collaborator at the table in the sense
right, right.
of some chaotic random number generator. Like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It
Speaking
creates
of,
like an air of trust too for me. Sorry, I know this is meant to be lightning round and I'm like going around
I
talking.
told you.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like,
I mean, removing that barrier. Well, I mean that does create like some sense of drama, but like especially if you're running like a tactical combat-y game where like death is on the line. If I not only remove fudging from the equation, but remove the illusion that it's even possible, the
mhm,
dice are making these choices, not I. Now it's much easier for me to come around to the other side of the table too and be like, yeah, you could move here, you could move there. Yeah, sure, I'm going to play the monsters as hard as I can, but
right,
this is an interesting tactical conversation we're having, and you're not worried to admit to your plans because you think I'm going to thwart them somehow or whatever the player
right.
paranoia that sets in is.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not like a adversarial thing, right? Like if I kill a player, it's not because I fudge the dice potentially. Even if you're not fudging the dice, who cares, right? But yeah, it's just like, you know, even if we're online and other people are rolling physical dice, like I I feel like me giving them that trust that they see all of my rolls just feels like we can all be like there's no need to fudge. I think it's rare for players to fudge anyways, but
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. That's my tangent. There we go. Sorry.
If they do, I don't get it. I mean, I get it, but it's a you're making a mistake. Speaking of dice, what is your favorite die size, like increment unit of dice?
Hmm. Hmm. I would have to probably say the 20 d20 just because it's random. It's like very random. There's a
Hmm.
lot of outcomes. um I don't know. I guess for like feel, a D12 is I like a lot though. Like if I were to make a different dice system for Indominant, we use the D20, but it would probably be like a 2D12 or something because I like D12s.
Yeah, D12 is the most popular answer, which was my answer, but I didn't know until I started the show that that was like semi-universal.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to be D20 for math reasons, for like system design reasons. Yeah, it was real good. You got a lot of swing, little
Uh-huh.
5% buckets. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty intuitive, but it's not just, percentile, so you can obscure it a little bit. It's a good,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, and
Um,
the swinginess is something I like about the
yeah.
D20. Is it's like a surprising outcome happened, so we it's like fun and exciting and surprising for everybody.
Yeah, I've heard people take like umbrage with the swinginess of it. It's like, then why are we trying to randomize a thing if
Mhm.
you're have a favorite
Yeah,
outcome? Like, what are we? Okay,
welcome the randomness.
yeah, I thought that was the point. Um, are you a fan of running like pre-published adventures? You run in homebrew. I mean, you're running your own whole system now, so that's almost redundant. But
I never ran a published adventure or a pre-made adventure. I've made now, right, like you just said, I made ones for other people and I've ran them to like test them. But um, before that or outside of that, it's always been like homebrew stuff, or I make my own ideas and stuff like that. So I have a big one. I really want to make a sandbox setting for Indominant, like a sandbox campaign, and have it like a book where you have that campaign in there, but it's sandbox, and so it's very just like tips and tricks oriented, and explains maybe like the factions and things that can go on, but it's not like they're going to do this and then once they do that they go do this. Well, not that kind of thing for sure.
Love
So
it. Okay, favorite class, and I will take D&D cloney thing and also Indominant if you can pick a favorite child.
yeah, it's hard, but I have one maybe. So for D&D, like fantasy, I'm big on actually rogues and rangers. I usually like bruiser type characters, or like a barbarian, but for some reason in fantasy, I just like rogue, ranger, druid. Those would be like my top three, but like generally I mostly play rogue. Um, so
And
and
that's
then
like
for an oh, go ahead.
skill vibes or like creeping through the shadow vibes or
It's
what's
the
the
creeping through the shadows. It's like the
yeah.
sneaky creeping through the shadows, like stealing, pickpocketing, like in
Hmm.
Oblivion and stuff like that. I always play like stealthy characters, stuff like that. I don't know why, I just enjoy it. It's because I'm not very stealthy myself, and so I get to do something I can't do personally. So yeah, and then in Indominant though, um, specifically my favorite combination is Bruiser archetype with the fire power set,
Hmm.
because it's like Bruiser is just big, tough, strong character, which I like. But then Fire Power Set is very like offensive, and so I run in and like wreak havoc is kind of like the plan, like blow up, and yeah, just like take a bunch of hits. So that's what I like in Indominant.
Yeah, sure. You could hit me as much as you want, but it's gonna hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, Curious. Okay, roll for stats, standard array, point by. Again, that's a D&D coded question, but how is ability score attribution working in Indominant?
We do point by,
You do point by.
but standard array is also cool. I think rolled stats are also fun though. When I play D&D, always rolled stats. Um,
Always rolled stats. Interesting.
yeah, yeah, with some like safeguards against like extreme results, which
Mm,
kind of makes it less like I think we did the 3d6 and you roll. I think you roll 8 times and you get to keep the highest five or six, right? Six. We have
six.
five. It's six. Yeah, in D&D. And then like if your total is over a certain amount, then you have to roll again or
Hmm.
subtract from your highest or one of them, stuff like that. And like if you're low, if your total is under, then you get to re-roll again or something. Um, but yeah, I don't know, something about rolled stats for D&D. It's probably because that's how I learned to play D&D, was the the people I played with, they did rolled stats, and so I just, it's like a nostalgia sort of thing for me. It's
And I do like kind of getting back to that, just like emergence, letting the dice
right.
have some sort of control over the narrative, if not ultimate control, just like discovering. Like I play a rogue. I like playing rogues, but let's see what I'm playing tonight. Tell me numbers. It's like, oh
Yeah.
well, my dex is terrible. I guess it's not that. Okay, what are
Yeah.
we working with?
Oh, I don't do rolled in order. That's like chaos.
Ah,
It's
well,
roll in
that's
time,
my brand.
I should
I
say.
like, I like point, especially if I'm running the game. I like point by standard array. You can get to
Hmm.
standard array from point by. I feel like they're kind of in the same camp.
Yeah.
Where, okay, I know everybody on this side of the table. I can't balance between the players. I can balance
Right.
the game versus the party, but I can't balance between the players.
Right.
But if Ryan's sitting down, I embrace the chaos. I'm willing, especially if it's like a one shot or like a a couple sessions of a one off kind of campaign. Like yeah, I like 46 drop the lowest just so like I do feel heroic-ish. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, boom, down the line, bing bang boom, like show.
Yeah.
Oh, cool! All right, wisdom. Like, all right, what am I doing? I guess I'm doing a druid or like a cleric or something.
Yeah. I want to
I
try it.
like that discovery.
Yeah, I want to try that, especially for one shots. It's like you said, it's the emergent storytelling. Like just embrace the chaos. What am I playing tonight? And you get to pick the rest of your stuff, but you'll you don't have a plan. So
Hmm.
yeah, I would definitely want to try that. I think it could be fun, but I've always done roll in a sign was the way that I learned playing. So
What is your take on balance versus realism?
Hmm. Uh, I generally will lean towards balance rather than
Hmm.
realism. Um, I like realism. I live in a weird place when it comes to realism. Um, because like I mentioned earlier, I'm not big on minutia, and a lot of realism gets into minutia, like
Mhm.
tracking what your hands are doing or like ammo. I'm not big on those things. And so yeah, generally I lean towards game balance though between the two.
Flying characters in a super game seems redundant question. So I'm going to skip ahead to what's your favorite
Well,
like
actually, you should
okay,
ask.
yeah, hit me.
Ask.
Hit me. Let's
What's the
go. Let's go.
question? You said like, is it okay to have flying? Is that
Like
your?
flying characters question mark essentially.
Yes, it's something people question, but at least like the D&D flying, where it's just like
Uh,
I'm 90 feet in the air. We don't have flying right now in the primer.
wow. See, that's
Yes.
that's that's on me. I made an assumption there.
Yeah. At least mechanically is what I tell people. I don't thematically let people fly either because, like I said, grounded, not in the sense literally, but when you can fly, it's hard to, like, you can always escape if you can fly, or, you know what I mean? Like, nothing can be out of reach. Like, when we're not in combat, it's like if I need to cross a gap, um, well, I just fly over. It's not a challenge. There's no need for creativity and teamwork there. And so I think flying just solves a lot of interesting problems
Mm,
that players can just be creative with to solve themselves. Like, like creating an ice bridge to get your allies across, or things like that, where at least you have to like do something and try instead of just, yeah, we fly because we can. Um, and then there's the game mechanic part of it that I don't like, just because it's like, uh, if you're playing with minis, how do we set this guy in the sky? Right.
that's
VTTs
the
make it easier, obviously, but yeah.
but it's in a rarely in in like a super satisfying way. You've just introduced another dimension, which comes with a host of complications and puts a lot of onus on the level design and the game
Right.
master and just the I don't know the logistics that are holding your game together.
Yeah, yeah. I do. We've sort of settled that we're going to have, at the very least, an optional rule for flying stuff
Mm-hmm.
mechanically, but it won't be like, okay, you're 8 feet in the air. It's more like you're flying or you're not flying. It's like a status effect. I think we might actually just introduce like a flying status effect that's more like hovering, and so it's not, you don't have to count how high you are and do Pythagorean theorem to figure out the distance, um, or at least feel like you need to do that. It'll just be like, something simple that's not, it doesn't slow down the game, because that's another thing that I don't like about flying is like all of, right, the Pythagorean theorem. Okay, if he's 90 feet in the sky and he's also 180 like linear feet away from me, what's the distance? Like, get me out. That's where my brain goes when that kind of stuff happens. So
Yeah, we're solving for the tangent now, and it's like, what's happening?
yes,
This is not what I signed up for.
yes.
Um, so, Indominant aside, what are some cool games? Give us some recommendations outside the D&D sphere. What's
Um, well, Draw Steel is going to be one that people know
hmm,
about now, but it is fun. I played it. I played Relict, which was very fun. It's very chaotic. There's a lot of character options and a lot going on, which is a good thing. I think it's not just bad, but that also means like there are some crazy combos in Relic for your character. You pick two classes at least. You can pick three, and you have like your primary, secondary, and tertiary kind of thing. Very fun game by Houndsong Games. Um, let's see. I just played Call of Cthulhu
hmm,
recently for the first time, and we did not get into combat, but that was like a big thing for me. That I was like, how do you even have combat if you're supposed to avoid combat? Like, because you're just gonna die. But
hmm.
so I still have yet to like figure out. like my brain doesn't conceptually understand the concept of like, okay, we're gonna fight these monsters, but we're not supposed to fight the monsters. Like, and I know the idea would be you try to escape, but um, yeah. Let's see what else. There's some folks that I know that are making games, like some fun games. I haven't played it quite yet, but Ethereal TTRPG. It's a very fun because it's cryptids. That's what the ethereals are.
Hmm.
Um, Ryan is making it, and I think what's their, oh boy, I should know their company name, but very good one. Fine Ground Cryptids. That's what it is. Fine Ground Cryptids. Um,
I like
and
it.
so I'm actually going to be running. That'll be the first time I play. Is I'm running a session for the designer and some other folks.
Oh,
Um,
sick. No pressure.
yeah, yeah. I'm excited. Yeah. I wish I could tell you because he's probably going to watch, and Peter is playing in that game, and so is
Oh, nice.
Blaze with Ishana Khan. Blaze's game Ishana Khan would be another one that I suggest. Tales from Elsewhere. Man, there's a lot. I've played a lot very recently of new games, so it's hard for me to just like suggest one. I guess my
Ye-
suggestion it's like that's why I just named so many. Is like check out new games, look up games you haven't played yet, look up like indie TTRPGs. They're very creative oftentimes, and I don't know. There's just so many experiences you can have if you don't play just one game, and that doesn't mean you can't mostly play like D&D. Um, but it's good to also sprinkle in some other games and try new things.
we are in a golden age, and it feels like we're on the cusp of like there's just so many things lined up that are like just starting to pop or like in
Mm-hmm.
development. Like, oh, we got it good. Get out there.
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, love it. All right, Zarek had a great time. Everybody go check out Odin Keys Gaming on YouTube. The link to the backer kit for Indominant, more Indominant on the way. So watch those spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Super cool stuff. I'm excited to get my hands on the game and make some characters. I'm going to go download that quick start guide immediately.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, thanks for hanging out. Appreciate you.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you very much for having me. It was a very good pleasure, and I'm sure we'll have to do this again just because it was fun chatting.
Heck yeah. All right, bye everybody.